Our guest on this episode, Dr. Hassan Akbar, hails from Brooklyn, New York, where today he travels the world teaching and sharing his views on common social issues as an Islamic scholar. We caught up with Dr. Hassan recently on his trip to KL. We simply loved his fire and enthusiasm, plus his humorous side as he shared his point of view on relationships and marriage. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to this next episode of Cuba Cerita. We are in our third season, and we really are happy to have guests who are maybe not known to everyone, but known to a select few of us. The theme is still very much around listening to their point of view. What is it that maybe crosses their mind, and maybe we may agree or even disagree, but more importantly, there are insights that we can learn from. We've been very fortunate. In past seasons, we've had guests who are non-Malaysian, and it just so happens that this particular episode, we have a guest from Brooklyn, New York, Dr. Hassan Akbar, who happens to be in KL, where he spoke at the recent Straight Path Convention organized by Yayasan Taklim and their partners. I was one of the fortunate ones who was able to listen to his talks. But more importantly, I'm also fortunate because actually I happen to be a student of his, where I follow his classes on Sirah every week, virtually online. And of course, for me, it's such a pleasure being able to meet him in person, and of course, more importantly, him consenting to join us on today's podcast. So, Dr. Hassan, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to have you.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me.
And watching you over the last weekend at the Straight Path Convention, you were being pulled in many directions outside the talk.
You saw that. Yeah. SubhanAllah, the volunteers there, they were like, "You don't understand. You're popular. You can't just walk wherever you want." I said, okay, let me just bring this food for my mother, and then you could lock me away and throw away the key. No problem.
Yeah. And we are fortunate because so many scholars from around the world come, and of course we have different times of the year. So again, it's so nice, and I'm sure you've been to Malaysia on a few occasions already.
I have. It gets better every time.
You can share with us, first of all, how did you first come to know of Malaysia, and what was it that attracted you to come and frequent the country more often?
You want the long version or the short version? The one in the middle. I try to give you the middle version of the story. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Amma ba'du. So, the story begins with studying in an Islamic institute called Aris Institute.
Okay.
And I started my study in this institute back in 2009. This was 1 year after my father passed away from cancer. Allah yarhamuhu. And I did their bachelor's degree program because, death has an effect on people. Sometimes in a negative way, and fortunately for me, it was in a positive way, in which it made me reflect on my own mortality, and say to myself, let me start taking the religion seriously. Before that, I was just a Friday Muslim, and a Friday Muslim is just someone who goes to the masjid on Friday and struggles with his prayer during the week. So I was about 23 years old when he passed away, and when I returned from Hajj in 2009, I started studying. So I finished my bachelor's degree with them, and I told the sheikh that I wanted to pursue my master's. Did he know anywhere that he would recommend? And he said, no, you're our best student. Just stay with us. We're opening a master's program.
I see.
So I completed the master's with him, and I remember I was in Russia because my wife is Russian. And we were there for about a month visiting her relatives.
I see.
And I got the email that I completed my master's degree. And in that email, he said, and I would like for you to come to Malaysia to teach our intake program. It's a 3-month program.
Okay.
So I was excited on one hand, that I finished my master's degree. I was like, alhamdulillah,
Okay.
like I completed it. And then I was curious, on the other hand, on how would this Malaysia thing work?
Where is Malaysia in the first instance?
You know, even that as well. You know, where is Malaysia in the sense of how long would it take to get there, right? So, you know, I responded back to the sheikh and I told him, sounds fabulous. I would love to come to Malaysia. However, I do have a career. You know, I work in the utility industry.
Right.
And we don't get 3 months vacations. I don't know how it works in Malaysia
No, same.
or anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, we get 10 days vacation, 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
And then after time, maybe you get 3 weeks. And then after
Yeah.
25 years, you'll get 5 weeks. But right now, I have about like 12 days during the
Yeah.
year. I cannot come for 3 months. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll come for 3 weeks, and I'll see. And he said, no problem, just come. So that required me taking 1 week's vacation and 2 weeks leave, no pay,
Really?
to come over here for the
Very
first time. Yes, and I came the following year in 2016. So that's how I got here initially. And fortunately enough, as a da'i, as a speaker, a lot of these invitations come because someone in the audience hears what you say, are moved by it enough to invite you to speak somewhere else. And that often has a ripple effect. And then
Yes.
you find yourself in another place, in another city, in another company speaking. So from that one talk,
Wow.
some of the students in the school said, you know, what are you doing in Malaysia? I'm like, I'm just here just for 3 weeks. They're like, but the sheikh only put 2 talks for you. Like,
Oh my
you
goodness.
still have 2.5 weeks here. What are you
Yeah.
doing? I'm like, well, the sheikh went to Turkey. He put me in Hotel Istana for a week. I'm just going to the masjid and going back to my room. They're like, no way.
Okay.
We're gonna. And from there, they started advocating for me. I was at Shell. I was at Aziyada.
Oh, at the
I was
companies.
at all these companies giving Friday sermons or giving lectures. And one of them was advocating for me to come to Ya'yasa Ta'lim.
I see.
And funny enough, it's a segueing a little bit, but initially, you know, the center was like, well, what is he speaking about? And the student said, he's talking about racism in America. And at Ya'yasa Ta'lim, they were like, I don't think that talk is gonna be received well. Racism? Like, I don't know. But the student was like, no, you have to hear him speak. Like, listen to him speak first.
Yeah.
So they really advocated hard for me. I ended up getting the invitation to Ya'yasa Ta'lim. I spoke. Everyone was extremely happy. They brought me back the next day, I guess, to see if it was a fluke or if I really could do this. I spoke again the next day, and right then and there, they gave me the invitation to come to the Straight Path
Mashallah.
Convention 2017.
Yes.
And I've
Since
been
then.
back like 4 times since.
Fantastic. And your late father also was an imam.
So my father, he accepted Islam in the 70s. And this was a time when a lot of black people were accepting Islam in America and in the Caribbean
Okay.
as a result of the work of the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam, they're not Muslims
Okay.
because their creed is different.
Yes.
They believe in the Quran, but they also believe that the Bible is completely authentic, and they take both books as their sacred text, which is not
this
what
is
we do as
Malcolm
Muslims.
X
Malcolm
time.
X, pre-Hajj,
Pre-Hajj.
pre him going to perform Hajj.
Okay.
You know, and when you see a lot of their faith and what they taught, it was really black supremacy. However, keep in mind that it was only a knee-jerk reaction to white supremacy.
Yeah.
So whites were telling us forever that they were God. And so we were like, well, we're God. You know, they were, whatever they said, you know, we went in the opposite direction. A lot of popular figures began to come into this movement. You know, the nation, for all that we can criticize it religiously, it did teach self-love, and it taught changing one's diet and eating halal and you know, not eating the swine and these kind of concepts. And you know, it taught about you know, cleaning up one's community and you know, doing for self. So there was a lot of positive qualities of this organization, and a lot of famous people came into it. You know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, and we could just keep going.
Yes, yes.
So when these figures who were sports legends started coming into the religion, pouring into the religion, then a lot of Black Americans and in the Caribbean said, hey, wait, hold on. What is this religion? So my father was influenced at that time by Islam. But he said what changed him was when Malcolm X tried to land in Jamaica to give a talk and the authorities wouldn't let him. He said, why are they preventing him from talking to us? What is he saying? Yes, in Jamaica. They wouldn't let him off the plane.
Really?
So that really was a turning point for my father, because he said that I was always uncomfortable with the idea of a white man being God. So I never accepted Christianity. I just wasn't anything. But then when they refused to let Malcolm X off the plane, we started to dig. And then we found Islam and we embraced Islam. We should say that although the Nation of Islam, their creed is not a part of Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, it's not an accepted Islamic creed. So religiously, they wouldn't be considered Muslims, according to us. However, the founder of that organization, Elijah Muhammad, his son broke away from the organization early, and you can say the nation's divided into two camps. Those who went with him, Warith Deen Muhammad, rahimahullah, who took the people into mainstream Islam, right? And then those who stayed with Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan, and stayed in the nation. So, my family was of that went into mainstream Islam thereafter, before I was born, long before I was born. I came years later, but that's his story. So, yes, he was an imam in Jamaica. He did help to secure funds to build the largest masjid in Jamaica, which is in South Camp Road in Kingston, Jamaica. And then he migrated to America. He was giving some sermons here and there. I have some newspaper clippings of Islamic run newspapers with his sermons in it. And then, and then he had me and my younger brother. Before me, I have 4 older siblings. They were all born in Jamaica. So I was the first child born in America.
I see.
So for them, I'm not really Jamaican. But what does that mean? Eat the same food, got the same beating. I don't understand. What's the criteria to be a Jamaican here? But yeah, so.
But they all live in the U.S. today.
Everyone lives in the U.S. today. So yeah. So alhamdulillah.
Brooklyn, New York.
Not all of us. I'm still in Brooklyn. My younger brother Hussein is still in Brooklyn. And my oldest sister, she's still in Brooklyn. But my 3 other brothers, one's in Florida, one's in Texas, one's in Michigan. So, we've moved around a little bit because of career and choices in college.
Your career, why is you a qualified engineer? You've been working in the industry for 20 years or so.
Correct. So, I have an associate's degree in electrical engineering. And then I pursued my bachelor's degree in telecommunication engineering. But I started working in the utility industry with my associates. I don't come from a family that has much means. And so, we kind of all know, without it being said, when you turn 18, it's time to go. No one's going to kick you out. But no one's going to be spending on you anymore. You're an adult. So, I was by far not good in math or science. But I chose engineering because I wanted to get the money as fast as possible. And so being a doctor, that took too long. Being a lawyer, which everyone said I'm really good at because of being able to speak and being very argumentative as a youngster. I think I would have thrived. However, that takes long too. But engineer, I was like, this is easy. 4 years and boom, you get the job. And you're getting doctor or lawyer's pay. But if you looked at my report card, it's like I'm struggling in math and science. But one of my superpowers, if I could call it that, is that when I want something, I'm willing to grind out, be uncomfortable, be and pursue it relentlessly.
I see.
So whatever it was going to take to graduate with the engineering degree, I was going to do it. You're not going to hear me talk about, it's so bad, I can't. Whatever it was going to take to get it, I was going to do it.
Fantastic.
If I had to pretend that I like math and go to tutor every day, I was going to do it. That's one of my, keys to success that I'm very, determine when I make my mind up. So I've been working in the utility industry in New York for the past 17 years. I'm still there.
So I was reading about you.
Still there.
So you divide your time between your daily professional career, at the same time you teach.
Correct. Yeah.
And then, of course you're completing your PhD, or you've already completed your PhD.
Correct.
Really strong determination in all this.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm relentless. Don't get in my way and don't cross me. Okay. I'm very relentless.
And you've got the size also.
So
people have to cross you.
It's really, I don't realize what I've done until people say it like this, or until I'm around others who are trying to do multiple things and they're like, how did you get this done? Let me say something else here. I don't believe in exceptionalism and exceptional people. Okay, I'm sure they exist. And of course, those who are exceptional to me are the prophets and messengers.
Yes.
However, I feel this idea of exceptionalism is a cop-out and an excuse for people who don't want to work hard for what they want. I don't believe that I did it, and I don't know if you could do it, but if you're like me, I'm not that person.
Sure.
I believe you could do it, and anyone who really wants it can do it if they really want it. Don't call me on the phone telling me all the reasons why you can't do it. I don't believe in that. Yes, there are certain people who things are easier for, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. I'm not asking you to beat Usain Bolt in a race. I'm just telling you can jog a mile. It doesn't have to be in 8 minutes, but I know if you really want, you can jog a mile. It may take 30 minutes, but don't tell me you can't do it. I will never accept that.
True.
I was juggling a lot: school, work, family, and dawah. But alhamdulillah, for me, the dawah, being on the Islamic scene, this is a passion of mine. There are those who spend hours golfing, fishing. I still don't believe fishing works. Have you ever fished before?
Long time ago.
I don't know how that works. You put it on a bait, you drop it in the water with the whole ocean, and the fish are like, let me go bite that. Someone needs to take me fishing to prove it. I still doubt.
Sometimes it's not so much as they want to catch the fish; they just want to spend time on their own and reminisce about.
So it's just
it's another way.
No, but you're right about that. So people spend hours doing that, fishing and fishing and golfing and or binge watching their favorite movies on Netflix, or playing Candy Crush. I spend my time doing this.
Good.
So alhamdulillah,
And alhamdulillah, you've got a gift for it. I mean, Allah has given you the virtues of being able, alhamdulillah, to be a good speaker.
That's the funny thing. I tell my mother all the time, you beat me so much for disrupting the class. You should have put me in speech or in debate, or like all you did was just get the belt and tell me to shut up. And look now you're in Malaysia because I can speak.
Yes.
So all that time he was oppressing me, Mom. We just wanted you to get education. That's all. Mom, the belt. Come on.
It increased your doggedness in one.
You know what? It did that too. I did that too. Yeah.
So, brother, I must say also, I was one of the lucky ones who managed to be introduced to your book, Guided by Stars, and I know you have other books also, that you've written.
A few.
I was particularly interested in this topic, and I attended the talk also, the benefits of honoring parents, the underlying theme, because I'm a strong advocate of family relationship and how we know it, but it's strengthened with the understanding of how the Quran and Sunnah relate to it, and it strengthens our conviction, for example, in terms of guidance. Now, I was thinking along the lines of relationships, and I'm not sure how best to phrase this, but I feel, for example, an area where young adults today maybe, it's not so much as even reaching the stage of being parents, but building relationships that inshallah will lead into marriage and parenthood. I think to my honest viewpoint, it's a bit of a challenge today. And I have young children also who are growing
Right.
into adulthood also,
Right,
you know,
right.
and sometimes I don't have the answer as a father.
Right.
I'm sure you hear a lot from people who come to you seeking
I
advice.
heard a lot over the conference.
Exactly, too.
Spoke to like
Yeah.
5 brothers about this.
Really, yeah.
You know?
Maybe in reflection, how do you see this as maybe being an even greater challenge today, maybe compared to previously, if you
So
can
we're talking
compare?
about getting married and staying married?
In a way, yes, or even moving into a relationship which results in entering into marriage.
Mm.
Because I come from a generation where maybe we just followed the queue, and
You
know,
did.
after education it was getting married
Right.
and having a family and
Right.
all that. But I somewhat feel I don't blame the younger generation today, because I think there are different sets of challenges.
You guys didn't have Tinder. You didn't have dating apps. I'm sure there were places where you could go, but it wasn't at the palm of your hand where you just swipe left and right and just wait for a match. So that's the biggest difference between that generation and the generation now. The level of temptation. One of the speakers, I believe his name was Sheikh Bilal. What was his last name? You remember? Sheikh Bilal,
Bilal,
at the
yes.
conference. Pardon me, Sheikh Bilal. I'm forgetting the last name. But he said that, you know, the grandfathers, right? They saw one naked woman their whole life. Their wife.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a young person, 12, 13, has in their phone access to thousands of nude women in a minute or two. How do you expect them to stay married compared to the older generation, where the only woman that he's ever saw in his life is the woman that he's married to? Right? Compare that to a youngster who can sit down in school or on the bus or on the train or at home and scroll through thousands and thousands and thousands of naked women, where he can compare and pick and choose what he likes. And how can a person like that, even after they get married, be satisfied? Right? When there's so much to see. So, you know, this is something that, you know, is the greatest danger to the institution of marriage, creating this desire, this insatiable appetite for what's different, for what's better, right? However, when it comes to, you know, finding the type of relationship, I usually tell my friends, right? I'm like, you know what? Do you know what I would think is worse, right? Like a nightmare scenario, right?
Okay.
I have 2 nightmare scenarios.
All right.
One is I wake up in a war-torn country.
Okay.
You just wake up and I'm in some war-torn country. Bombs are dropping all over the place, right? Look at what's happening in Palestine. Could you imagine going to sleep tonight, waking up in Palestine? Waking up in Gaza? You know, may Allah liberate the land of Palestine and free our brothers and sisters, and remove the occupiers and those murderers, right? Number one, Ameen. But number 2, my greatest fear would be to wake up single. To wake up
Alone.
single. No.
Single.
It's not about being alone and not
Okay.
being in a relationship. It's
Okay.
about how hard it is to get into a relationship now. How hard it is to get married and stay married now. I feel like I got one of the lucky ones, like one of the last ones. If I had to wake up single now, I don't know what I would do, because these women, they're not what they once were, and the men are not what they once were. You know, so that just tells you how challenging it is, the courtship scene and the marriage scene, right? However, there are 3 tips that I usually give young men, not to women. I give it to men because I'm a man, so it's easy for me to give such tips. And I find that young people, I think they're focusing on the wrong things when they're trying to get into a relationship, especially those who are religiously inclined. You know, they hear the prophetic statement in which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that a woman is married for 4 reasons: her beauty, her wealth, her family, or her religion.
Yes.
Choose the one who has religion. May you prosper. And so they say, okay, I'm gonna choose the religiously committed girl. I feel like that's a mistake to begin with. Not because the religiously committed girl is not a good choice, but there are other factors that are important in making that decision. What's the point in choosing a religiously committed girl if the girl you're choosing looks like Frankenstein to you? What's the point?
Yeah,
That's not gonna last.
true.
She could make Qiyamul Layl all night. If you look at her and you're not attracted, if you look at her, you're not satisfied, and you're like, but she memorized the Quran, what's that gonna benefit? Nobody, not you. You're just gonna be in the relationship, and then you're gonna end up leaving her, and now she has to go around as the divorcee. And we know women, once they get married and they become divorced, they don't lose half their value, they lose like 75% of their value. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to say that they're not valuable, but I'm talking about in the eyes of society, right?
Yeah.
That's not the same as a man who's been divorced. You know, we kind of give men like, oh, well, maybe he just married the wrong one, or maybe she was crazy. It doesn't work like that for women.
Yeah.
Women have to make the right decision the first time around, right? So, you know, I say to them, put the religiously committed girl thing on the side for a minute. There's three things that you need to do when you're trying to find a woman, a potential wife. Number one, she has to be beautiful to you.
To you.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yep.
She may not look beautiful to me,
Yep.
but she has to be beautiful to you. Number one. Number two, she has to have good character. I'm not talking about religious commitment. I'm talking about character, right? She has to be genuinely a good person, someone who's compassionate, someone who is sensitive, someone who's gentle, someone who, you know, will tell you, hey, listen, give that poor guy some money. Someone who, you know, speaks nice with people who may not be on her level academically, financially, whatever, but she just treats people genuinely good. She just has good character, right? That's what you need to look for, right? Remember the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the heaviest thing that will be placed on the scale on the day of judgment will be husn al-khuluq, good character. Your character is the heaviest deed that will be placed. More heavier than you performing Hajj. More heavier than all the fasting you're doing in Ramadan. It's good character which will outweigh all of the other good deeds. So focus on her character. And number three, you should be able to argue with her. And that's when everyone goes, what does that mean? Argue with her. I say you have to examine how she handles arguments. That's the most important thing. And what that requires is, that requires for you to say the most ignorant thing that you know will get under her fingernail. Because you should know by simple interactions what would upset her, because she's going to express to you how she sees the world, how she sees family, how important family is. So maybe you'll say something like, you know, I can't wait another 3 years and then we could put your mother and my mother in a nursing home and be done with them. Right? How is she going to react to that? Is she going to go, I can't believe you would say something like this. I can never marry somebody like you. I'm done. Wow. That's all it took. That's all it took for you to throw it all away. You didn't even say, Hassan, what are you talking about? Your mother? Really? I know you don't really feel that way. Explain that to me. Why do you think that? Talk to me. Talk to me. Reason with me. But if you say something to upset her and she immediately goes into a firestorm because you did say something very toxic and very argumentative, you know this is not the woman for you. Because wallahi, one day you're going to say something to upset her. One day she's going to say something to upset you, right? So she has to be able to argue with you with respect.
How she handles it.
Yep. Hang up the phone on me, over, never again. Yell and scream, not happening, never again. These are the cues. If she's beautiful to you, if she has good character, and she argues with rules, with respect, you know, she disagrees with you with respect, yo, jump on her. Oh, what about the religion? The religion is going to come. She already has half of it. She has good character. She watches her speech. She controls her anger. The religion is already going to come. Do that. Pursue that, and you're going to find more success. And I feel like these are the conversations that are not being had. We're just telling young people, marry the religiously committed man, marry the religiously committed woman. And we're not letting the youth realize that you actually have to like the person. Being religiously committed is not enough.
The natural human instincts.
Correct.
But underlying all of that is the faith and belief.
Of course. You know, it is there, you know. So I feel like, you know, we need to, you know, reassess how we gauge the person that we want to get married to, while keeping in mind the benefits of marriage, and the fruit of marriage. People who are bachelors, you meet them. I've met several here in Malaysia. This one brother of Indian descent was telling me, I was at every party in the world and I wasn't happy. And we hear this over and over again.
Yeah.
These guys that are living vicariously, and these women as well, they're not happy. They're happy in the moment. They're happy in the moment in which they're sharing or telling the story. But after the story is done and after your friend has heard it, it's just a stain on you, So, let's think about what true happiness is. And that's in being in a meaningful, committed relationship. We know for sure that brings happiness. We see it. So these are the relationships that we should be pursuing, which is marriage, right? And then, we've been placed on the earth, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, to be khulafa, to be, those who succeed generation after generation, and marriage is the best soil to produce and to raise children.
Yes.
Children can be raised outside of marriage, but it won't be the best soil.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be sand, maybe it'll be rock. And I'm sure we have examples of vegetation growing from sand and rock and all sorts of different type of sediment. But what's best, what's rich is soil, and that soil is marriage, right? So I think, again, we need to, remind the people on the virtues of marriage and the benefit of marriage and why they should pursue it. I think if we start to do these things, there'll be greater success rate. However, the elephant in the room is social media.
Yeah.
And that requires self-regulation. No lecture can change a person to self-regulate. We could lecture until I'm blue in the face. If at the end of the day, your phone has access to the internet, then you have access to everything.
Which everyone has.
Even
those who are married already.
Correct.
What's your view about arranged marriages? Is it maybe something that's common in
Jamaica?
Yeah, or wherever you frequent?
No. Look, let me tell you something, right? Arranged marriage is a privilege.
Okay.
For people who come from culture and from a solid tradition. And what I mean by that is when you're looking at the African American experience or the black experience, we have been stripped of culture, tradition, religion, heritage, language, and food to a certain extent. So this idea of when it's time for marriage, the tradition is this and that was never our tradition.
Okay.
Historically speaking, we come from an era of, you can be married to a woman, and when the master wants your wife for the night, you can't do nothing about it. When the master's friends come over and they need to be entertained, your wife is their entertainment. How much love do you think a man possesses for his woman who can be given away at any moment, right? How much love do you think is in a woman for a man who cannot protect her in that moment? So we're talking about a broken people, right? Even if you were to have children, the master could come any day of the week and say, I sold your child, I sold your daughter, I have to pay a debt, she's sold. So we're talking about 400 years, 300 years of broken, toxic abuse. Imagine if me and you were walking through the streets of Bukit Bintang, 2 o'clock in the morning, right?
Okay.
And someone came and put a hood over our heads and threw us in the van and took us to some kampong somewhere, right?
Okay.
And beat us all night and then let us go. And we came back the next day. How would you and I feel driving through Bukit Bintang at 2 o'clock in the morning tomorrow?
Yeah. You would be trembling.
And that's just from one incident of torture. That's just from one incident of abuse. That's just one time. Imagine generation on generation on generation for hundreds of years. What type of people do you think comes out of that, is produced from that? Is it people that has a rich tradition of marriage and staying? No way. So I know I segued a little bit long on that, but it's important to know that a lot of our revert brothers and sisters, those Muslims that's coming from black African American Hispanic families, we don't have the luxury of having a mother and aunt who could say, hey, I have this sister for you, right? That's not the black experience, because if you're from Africa, Senegal, Nigeria, you have arranged marriages because they have their culture, their way, and their thing, right? So we don't have that luxury. We have to find the person that we are going to marry organically, you know, and I tell the brothers, you have high school and college, bro, go for it. One of the volunteers at the Straight Path yesterday, I asked him what year of college he was in. He was like, he's in his 4th year. I'm like, brother, you have like 4 months left to find her, bro. Better go up to every single one of them, and you better say something to her, because the worst things that she could tell you is no. Oh, I'm like, listen, let me tell you something about rejection. Let me tell you something about her saying no. A lion's success rate in a hunt is only 60%. That means 40% of the time, when it's running, chasing it down, it got outrun. When it finally grabbed it with its claws, it got away. Even when it got on the neck, somehow it kicked, or another gazelle came and he lost it. I said, but he's still a lion, though. He's still a bad boy. He's still the king of the jungle, even though he only has 60% success rate. Likewise, brother, you still that guy. You that lion. You that guy. Who cares if she said no? You're that guy. Be that guy. Go after that person, you know? So, but, you know, there are other brothers with different experiences. I have a lot of friends, Palestinian, Yemeni, and the like, and, you know, Senegalese and the like. And, you know, one Senegalese brother that I went to college with, he took me to Senegal back in 2017. That was a beautiful experience. He told me that when he was ready for marriage, he told his family, they sent him a list of 12 cousins.
12 cousins.
Names and everything. He just had to pick. I was like, brother, wow, that sounds good and bad, but that kind of sounds good, because you could just be like, yo, just send me height, weight, and you just pick. And hold on, anyone you chose had to say yes. He was like, yeah, they're coming to America. I was like, yo, you did it, dog. You know, easy for him, but not so easy for us. No, coming from this.
The reason why I asked that question is because, you know, maybe traditionally it was before, but it's coming back, and somewhere or other. In fact, I know there was a study in the UK which they were fascinated how the ethnic Indians and Pakistanis were getting into long-standing arranged marriages. And a few factors was, number one, when the process of identifying and pairing them, it was from two sides who understood their children. And secondly, also, they found that when they enter into these type of marriages, the initial few years is like courting. So getting to know each other, you know, like the initial boyfriend, girlfriend, that spirit, you know, before they actually start a family. And it seemed to be a reason how it works. So I've had Malaysian friends who have got, adult children, kind of contemplating and saying, hey, you know, should we be involved in our children's selection of life partner? Of course, parents being parents.
Of course.
They don't want to impose, but at the same time, they want to get their children, you know, going, sort of thing, you know.
That's interesting, because I actually have had this conversation all week. I've been asking Malays, you know, do Malaysians have a tradition of arranged marriage? And they're like, no, we don't.
We don't.
I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So it is interesting that you're bringing that point up. However, I do want to say, even when it comes to Pakistanis or Indians or Bengalis or what have you, you know, this idea of, we did a study, we found that their marriages last longer and this and that. Let's not forget as well that if he divorces his cousin, that's a problem, because they're still family. So I don't know if that's the silver bullet. I don't know if you know, because the courtship is long and the families know each other. I don't know about that, brother. You know, if I was able to bet, and we're not able to bet, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of these people stayed together because he's got to stand in front of his uncle at the next family gathering. I'm willing to bet that the wife, she sends her cousin back home, and that's her mother's brothers. There's going to be hell to pay. So, again, I'm not underscoring the benefits. I'm sure there are benefits, culture and all that. That's nice. But at the same time, I don't know how happily married these individuals are.
Yeah, I guess everyone
You know.
for themselves.
I don't know how happily married they are. But maybe I'm just, maybe I just, I'm biased because I get the bad phone calls. Maybe I'm just not getting all the good phone calls. To talk about
you're like the doctor getting all the ill patients.
That's it. That's all I'm getting.
No
so
one
maybe
comes and tells
my
you,
point of view is
life
biased.
is
Maybe my point of view is a little bit biased.
Maybe you've got to see each other more often.
That too. But what you said about the Malays saying, hey, maybe we should consider this. I would actually advocate that because it's not family marrying family.
No, not necessarily.
So there wouldn't really be like a sister or a brother wouldn't really feel too like I'm gonna let my uncle down. I like that. I like maybe we do need to start planning marriages and suggesting
introducing.
I think that's a fabulous idea only because it's outside of the family context.
Yes.
And I think that would increase rates of success.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something, again, it's easier said than done. You know how parents are, and even with friends or so, you sort of like look across and say, hey, maybe there's someone you like to pair your son or daughter with. But sometimes again, friendships and even posing the question.
I'm recalling a brother, Egyptian brother. He recently just got married, maybe last year. May Allah put barakah in his marriage and keep it, because he may be watching this one day.
Okay.
And however, he was adamant that he wasn't going to marry the person his family recommended for him. He was just like, I don't want that. I don't want to do that. And I was pushing him like, all right, well, if you don't want to do that, well, then this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get out there. You're going to have to speak with different imams. You're going to have to show up to different events. You have to put yourself in spaces where you're going to meet people. Going to work, come home. Going to work, come home. Going to the masjid on Friday, come home. You're not going to meet anyone that way. Right? And the woman that you do meet going to work, you're saying you want a traditional woman. She worked her butt off to get that position to sit next to you. Now you're going to tell her to sit home? She's not. It's not going to work.
Yeah, that's practical.
And subhanAllah, 10 years later, the brother takes me out for dinner maybe 2 months ago just to tell me he decided to get married to a relative, what his mom suggested. And I wanted to say, you wasted all my time. I wanted to slap this boy so bad. I love you for the sake of Allah. I wanted to slap this brother, but I had to just be like, man, congratulations, may Allah. But inside, I was just wanting to be like, wow, what was the point, brother? All that time on the phone at the dinner table, and my wife is like, and I'm like, and I'm counseling you, talking you off a ledge. So subhanAllah, he's getting married through arrange, and he's so happy with it, and it worked. Okay. So again, here goes a positive. Inshallah, alhamdulillah.
I'm sure you do get a lot of inquiries of couples who are married. We seem to be talking about marriage now, but you seem to. I know you get a lot of inquiries or requests for advice. How do I tackle situations as a married couple? Again, different cases, different situations.
Like I said, there are some questions I'm good at answering, others I'm not.
Okay.
Personal questions like this, I'm not really good at answering. Okay. Only because I have a certain approach. I see things in a certain way. Okay. The advice that I give you may not be who you are.
True.
And you may just be pretending to be me in that moment. And it may give you success, but because you're not able to maintain that, it fails again. And you say it doesn't work. But the truth is that the advice I gave you was a me advice. And
so what about advice that sort of like will be more generic? For example, you know how it is sometimes in marriage, we tend to focus on the not so great points, but there's a lot of blessings and good things to think about.
So look, I could answer this in an Islamic way. I can, right?
Please do.
I could just give like Islamic advice, but that wouldn't just necessarily be too true to who I am and how I would handle a situation. Because remember, Islam gives us advice on how to approach things, but Islam also understands and appreciates people have different culture, people have different cultural practices and different norms, right? Islam doesn't come in and changes a people's culture. It only purifies it, removing those toxic elements, right? So for me, for instance, let's say, in my relationship, when it comes to matters at home, I have the final say, right? And I don't have the final say like I'm a king and no one could talk and all my subjects must be quiet. But, I take a leadership role in my family. I've been doing that consistently. I'm able to handle the pressure of what it means to make a decision that's going to affect everyone's life. And it has become expected of me. Now a brother comes to me and he says, I was sitting down and me and my wife, we discussed things together. Brother, I can't advise you because I'm that guy at home. And now you're talking about 50-50. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just not a me thing.
Yeah.
So it's just not, I can't help you in this. Like, if that works for you, that sounds like a nightmare to me. I'm not going to sit 50-50. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. And then as my wife, you're going to be like, hey, babe. And you're going to tell me what you think about it. And then I'm going to consider what you thought about it. And then I'm going to make a decision. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, babe, let's figure this out together. That's just not a me thing. However, we see from the life of the Prophet ﷺ that he was more of, compassionate and more 50-50 with his wife, right? The Prophet ﷺ, we see in him this level of gentleness and this level of care and this concern and this compassion. I mean, the fact that every one of his companions thought that they were his best friend, right? I mean, what an amazing ability to make everyone you meet think that they're your best friend, right? That just shows you the level of attention that he gives to a companion, right? So imagine the level of attention that he gives to his wife at home, right? And his family. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that when the Prophet was home, he was present, he was with us. Now we're not. We're at home, we're on our phones.
Yeah.
We're at home, we're doing work. We're at home, we're somewhere else. We're at home, we're thinking about the job. But she said whenever the adhan would be called, he would stand up as if he didn't know us and go and respond to the prayer. But she understood that when it was time for the salah, that Allah's priority came first. And as soon as he came back home, he was putting the family first, right? Yeah. So this is definitely one of those tips for those who want to have successful marriages. They need to, prioritize the family and be present.
Be present.
Right? And available.
Both sides.
Yeah, both sides. All sides. They need to be present and be available, right? Yeah. Remember, the example of the Prophet is not just for men.
Sure.
His example is to be emulated by both men and women.
Yep.
Allah says in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. And certainly in the Messenger of Allah is an excellent example. For who? For both men and for women, for all of us, for young and old. So definitely being more attentive, even when it comes to the way in which the Prophet would express his love, the way he would be romantic, if we could use those words, with his wife. Aisha, she describes that whenever I would eat from something, the Prophet would make it his business to bite from the same place that I bit from. So if I bit on a piece of bread, if my wife passes me that, I'm biting the other I'm not biting the other side of the bread. Yes, we have 4 children, but I'm biting the other side of the bread. That's just me. The Prophet ﷺ, he's biting in the same spot where she bit. And she felt special with that, She bites on a piece of meat. I want the other side because that's where the meat is. If I bite your side, I'm going to get less meat. Like, it's math. But the Prophet would bite in the same spot where she bit. And she felt so special because of that, I mean, this is a very romantic thing, right? And I don't want to sell it because, again, I can't be too good of a salesman when that's not who I am, right? So, alhamdulillah, we can go into these tips and these bits of advice on how, couples can both work with each other, especially in the area of counsel and advice, Again, the prophetic incident of the Prophet receiving the revelation for the first time. We are all familiar with this story. The first person he runs to is his wife, and he says, cover me, cover me, cover me. Zemmiluni, zemmiluni. I couldn't imagine saying that. Coming home, babe, cover me. What? Babe, give me the blanket. Babe, can you give me a call? Babe, can you cut the AC off? Like, like cover me. But that's the Prophet. That's the relationship that he had. It may be relationship goals for certain brothers,
Yeah.
And then he confided in her what his problem was. This happened, this happened, this happened. And she immediately reassured him, this is very beautiful, and may everyone have success who feels comfortable in that realm. But I don't feel comfortable in that realm. let me just say this one last thing. There was a brother, I was talking to him, and he was telling me that, his wife said something and it made him cry, and, he felt bad, and, and I was struggling to connect with him on it. It just seemed like beta energy. It wasn't alpha.
I see.
It wasn't like, and then that led to his mother. Oh, my mother said, may Allah curse the day you were born. And, and then he's crying on the phone.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, brother, first of all, your mother's Palestinian, right? Arab women talk like that. Don't act like she just said that and it was the first. Arab women talk like that. You do something wrong, they're going to curse the day you were born and may Allah this and may Allah that. But you're trying to use it because you think I don't know the culture, perhaps, and you want to get compassion from me. I can't give you that compassion, brother. Your mom's probably said that 100 times. Why are you crying about it today? If you're looking for the compassion, you need to go to your wife and tell her to cover you. I can't do that for you. I struggle to show compassion when my own kids are crying. Right? I struggle with that. And I know I am at work and I will text my wife and I will say, I need to come home and tell my kids I love them. I need to tell the kids I love them. I'm going to do that. When I get home, I'm going to tell them I love them. And it's the most awkward thing in the world to me because that was not my experience growing up. My parents showed their love in you have food, you have shoes, you have a roof. What are you talking about?
That's all the love.
That was all the love. And if my father or mother were to say I love you, it would be uncomfortable, to be honest. I would feel uncomfortable. And then I see other people like, I love you too, I love you. And I go, wow, that looks so nice. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And I said that on Facebook. I was trying to articulate it. Like, brothers, please don't come to me like trying to, get a hug or something. Like, I'm just not that person. I'm trying to be compassionate, with my kids, and I'm admitting that I'm not that person. And people started attacking me on Facebook.
Really?
Imam, this is what we're talking about. You imams are so insensitive. And the Prophet ﷺ was so compassionate and yada. You're going to lose followers this way. I'm like, can I let you in on a little secret? I'm trying to get to 0 with my followers. They're like, what? Then you're definitely going to get to 0 this way talking like this. I said, I don't want people to follow me. I want people to follow the Prophet Muhammad SAW. I'm trying to get to 0. Unfollow me. Stop following me. Who said I want anyone to follow me? You think that I learned this religion so I could gain followers or be popular? If that was the case sitting here in this interview, I'd just give you a whole bunch of Islam and just quote a whole bunch of beautiful verses and hadith that touch your heart and touches everyone's heart, and then leave here pretending I can't be that guy. I have to be who I am and be sincere and say how I feel. I started learning this religion because my father passed away and I wanted to get closer to Allah. Then I started falling in love with learning this religion so that I could be a source of knowledge for my family. So that when my mother comes to me and says, Hassan, what does this ayah mean? I don't have to go to an Arab to explain it to me. I don't have to go to a foreigner to explain it to me. That I put the work in, I learned so that I could be that source of knowledge and that fountain in my household for my kids and for my daughter and for my wife and for my mother. That's why I learned it. If you think I learned it to stand on the pulpit, if you think taking away opportunity to speak in front of the public is going to affect me, it won't at all. Not at all. I don't care about none of that.
Yeah.
The only people I care about and their opinions that matter to me is my mom, my wife, and my kids. Everybody else's opinion is none of my business. I don't care about it at all. Now, it is important for us as Muslims to maintain good reputation. Yes. No one should be able to say Hassan's a thief, Hassan's a crook, Hassan's a oppressor. No, I'm passionate. Every Muslim needs to be passionate about protecting their reputation. We deal with people in the proper way. We're honest. We don't steal. We don't backbite. We don't do these things. But as for your opinion about how I run my family, how I am day to day, or what I think about issues, I could really care less.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's not so much as, how should I say, following you. Obviously, you would become an example, and sometimes it may make you feel uncomfortable if people see you in a different way or it's misinterpreted. But ultimately, there are a lot of good values. There's a lot of, good examples to follow. from meeting someone like you, listening to someone like you, and again,
And that's because we're trying to follow the Prophet.
Yes,
I want to make that clear. It's not because it's coming from me.
No. Yep.
It's not because it's coming from me.
Definitely.
It's because I'm trying to emulate the Prophet,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Parents will come to me all the time and say,
Yep.
how do I get my child to love the Prophet ﷺ? I say, emulate more of his sunnah.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
when you're raising your kids and they see you saying Bismillah
Yes.
before you eat, making dua before you put on your clothes, making dua when you get in the car, drinking a certain way, walking a certain way.
Yep.
When they become 12, 13 and they're beginning to read the seerah, they're going to read, my father does all of this. And if they love you, you're automatically going to instill the love in the Prophet because it's going to be like, this
Yeah.
is the same man.
Yeah.
So if you want to instill love, be that person. So, again, it's not following me because I have all these intrinsic values. No,
Sure.
it's because like everyone else, I'm striving to try to emulate those values.
Yes.
And, and make sure my reputation is solid and show the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but I'm a very private person.
I understand.
Because I have opinions on things that I'm entitled to have.
Like everyone else,
and everyone else is entitled
yeah.
to. Yeah.
Dr. Hassan, it's a pleasure. I'm just watching you. I'm feeling the vibrancy, and I saw it through your different talks. I can only thank you once again, and I hope. And I'm not sure when's your next visit, but please continue to come. Sure. I see you every week, albeit virtually, and I can tell you, my wife and my daughter actually they started last semester, and it was not good of me to listen in but not participate. So my wife said, Azman, you should participate. That's when I signed up this semester, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm going to put a little circular also on our screen also to encourage others to sign up. And it's very easy with Yayasan Taklim, and thank you so much. You're going to be heading back in a couple of days' time, I hear.
Yes. I've been here since November 5th.
Okay.
So I think I'm just going to stay till like December 5th. I think I'm just going to do the month. So like I say, I've done a month here.
Okay.
And that's because I thought after the convention that I'd have a lot of free time, but we have the podcast. There's another podcast.
Okay.
There's a few schools that I visited,
Nice.
refugee schools and
Wow.
boys schools that, I visited them already, but they're asking me to come back.
Wow.
So, I kind of just want to just touch everyone before I go back to America and go from this popular speaker to just a humble truck driver, that's the post I'm gonna put on. But Superman goes in a phone booth, I just take an international plane and I could feel my popularity just draining until I land, and I'm just regular.
And you're going to be going back into the winter.
And going back into the winter and going back into work and then hearing everything that's happening at work, because you know how work is with all the gossip and the changes and the this and the that. But I really appreciate you inviting me.
No, it's a pleasure.
To do
Thank
this
you so
podcast.
much. And do follow us on Cubo Cerita. Maybe you can share it with your friends too.
I have, and I will. And I do want to say that I believe this is really amazing work that you're doing here. I'm really impressed by you even thinking about going into the podcast space, at this time in your life, this is amazing, still wanting to work and wanting to be contribute. Inshallah. People have this idea of retire and just stop. No. We got to keep producing. An apple tree doesn't just stop producing apples and says I'm in retirement mode. It produces apples until it's over. Inshallah. So you need to continue to do what you do. And I must say as well, when it comes to the class, the Sira class, your picture is the most impressive picture. I didn't know who you were, but I'm like, who's this guy with this shot? Like he's trying to get a role on a movie here. He looks fabulous.
I didn't know how to change it actually.
The picture looks amazing. Everyone else is just like black screen or nothing. But your picture there with the smile, I'm like, whoever this guy is,
I gotta meet him.
Whoever this guy is, and then of course you run right into me. So alhamdulillah. Again, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to be here with you.
Thank you so much.
Of course, inshallah.
And we wish you a safe and happy and fun remainder of your stay. And of course, we look forward to seeing you again many times.
Inshallah. Next time I'm around, I'll definitely come back again.
Certainly.
Inshallah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So, mashallah, it was a very good session. Alhamdulillah, I love the frankness of thought and expression that Dr. Hassan gives us. So, this is only a barakah for us, all the listeners and viewers. You know, you have this opportunity to listen to such distinguished speakers through our podcast, and you know, may you have other opportunities in the future. So, till we see you again, stay tuned to Cuba Cerita. Remember to subscribe and share these messages with your friends too. So till we see you again, have a good rest of this week, and inshallah we'll see you again soon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.